We are live. I believe we are live. Check, check,
Oh,
test,
my head's
test.
like way. I
Uh,
gotta go down here.
Good morning, welcome back, Sylvians, immediately in the chat.
What is Sophia?
How you
It's not
doing?
Shiburi, as they say in Japan.
Yeah, it's actually British. It's the same in Japan. Long time no
Yeah.
see. So did you
How's how's
yeah? How's Canada? How's Canada?
one of our good friends? Name's Jason.
Hmm.
He's in Canada right now, isn't
Oh
he?
yeah, he is in Canada right now. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, who knows? Maybe you'll see if you see a guy
yeah.
with a big bushy beard and a Japanese wife. He'll be one of probably 3,000 couples that fit that description in
Yeah,
Canada right now.
I
I'm
think he's
sure.
yeah, I think he's in East Canada. How are we going? We're doing. Well, Zilpha, I'm guessing did you miss our stream last week? Because we did stream last week and we did the whole like catch up spiel about what we've been up to.
Yeah.
Uh,
A long story short, we went on tour. Darren went across the world, and now we're working on getting ready to launch our new Kickstarter. That's kind of the nutshell version. Is that
yeah.
fair? Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I guess then we could, for Zilphia's sake, no, but I was also out camping. Well, that's a very reasonable reason to. I mean, I'm personally offended that you didn't cancel camping for a stream that we didn't announce ahead of time, but that's fine. I hope you had a lovely time camping. I miss camping, actually. I've been camping for a long time. Kurt, you ever been camping?
I went camping when I was like 8 or 9, and a bear snuck into our camp and drank some Zima.
Wait, really?
And I've missed.
And no one died?
No, just the bear
Well,
just
that's
like
good then. No
came
one died. That's great.
and had themselves a Zima.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
No worries about
No, no,
missing
it's
it.
over. I jest like here. Please don't feel in any way bad. I'm just joking.
You know, I watch the video on demand. I guess you might have missed my son running on stream. So here in Japan, it's summer.
Well, I cut
It's
that
very
out. I cut that out. It's on YouTube, but
okay.
it's gone.
Well, the people who watch live, right,
Yeah,
would have
yeah.
seen that. Yeah. So I'm taking care of my son because I'm divorced, but I have a pretty good co-parenting relationship, and his mom allows me to take him for extended periods of time, especially holidays like this. So yeah, I just take care of my son, and I love the little boobach.
The
He
little
makes me tear
rascal.
my hair up.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Being a dad, it's wonderful and a lot of work and energy. But yeah, so it's been hard to do the things and then I had a concert on Sunday, right? That's what
Yeah.
we did. So I've been playing music, been trying to write, trying to read, trying to do all the things to have a well-rounded life without starving. So that's what I've been up to. How about you? How about you, Darren? How's things on your side?
I had band practice yesterday, and that was awesome. We're learning.
Oh, but not it.
Yeah, we're learning "Bring Bang Bang Born." Do you know it?
Is that the Creepy Nut song?
Yeah. The bring bam bam bring bam bam bring bam bam
Yeah,
bam with the stupid dance. It's actually
You
awesome.
know
Man.
what?
I'm so excited to play it. It's
Yeah, it's a good song.
oh.
If Xiaodo ever plays in the same convention as you,
I
I'm
okay.
sure
I can't leak this on stream, but we did ask him. And,
oh, is he?
Yeah.
Is he showing up? Are you playing the same?
yeah, he's at the same con, but he's not going to play Bring Bam Bam Born with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Darren plays anime conventions with his wife and two other friends,
Yeah.
and who are also our friends now over here in Japan, Jeremy and Marie, and they're called the Natoheads, and they play a bunch of anime covers, right?
That is right.
Yeah, I also used to play in an anime cover band like 15 or 20 years ago, which is weird. It's just a separate thing. That's we both played in anime cover bands separately from each other. So there's that. And now we make games together.
Yeah, we do.
Games plural. Trying to make things happen, trying to make moves in the world of Celtic folkloric fantasy.
I'm currently trying to get, because Zilpia wasn't here last week, I want to show her something that she missed out on, I guess. And for update for everyone else, actually, I guess we can do it as an intro to what we're getting up to today.
Recap.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sure. I know what he's pulling up.
Yeah.
Just like this. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I guess I'm good to switch over. Let's see. Screen share. So, Zilphia, what you missed last week is that we announced the title of our next book. Our next book, which will be launching this year on Kickstarter, is A Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen. And this is a current work in progress mock-up of the book cover.
No, thank you. They'll feel it. Thank you.
Yeah, love it. Oh, nice, good. I'm glad. Yeah, it's important that you
Also,
love it.
if you're joining us from the Dungeons and Dragons crowd, because I think Darren noted that we're streaming in D&D right now.
Yeah.
Is that right? This is going to be 5e compatible.
Yeah.
Also, future 5e.
Yeah, 5.5e compatible. Yeah, 5.5 edition. Yeah.
Yeah. To celebrate, I did my nails up blue to celebrate the thing. You guys see
Oh,
that?
nice. Yeah, get that Celtic woad blue in there. Yeah.
The Celtic woad blue, and I got that going.
Yeah.
Teaching my son that it's okay for men to wear nail polish. But yeah, really excited. I think the art list, the cover looks fantastic. Raphael did a great job. The title looks fantastic. Chrissy did a great job.
Yeah, Chrissy did awesome. Look at this Celtic artwork on the title. It's amazing. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, and then at the bottom, what's her tagline? Does it have her tagline?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, she did change it. She did change it too.
Yeah. This is an old work in progress. So we're currently umming and ahhing between the Ultimate Celtic Sourcebook for Iron Age Adventuring and the Definitive Celtic Sourcebook for Iron Age Adventuring.
Yeah.
I know. I kind of like Ultimate more. It is more exciting, but there's the other franchise that uses that, right?
Yeah, but it's an older book, and they don't have. Do they have a trademark on Ultimate Celts? I don't know. I feel like
yeah,
a little bit loose in terms of trademarking. Also, like their book was very from my perspective, because I did read for that several years ago. My impression was very Irish Celts focused.
Yeah.
Which I think, and obviously ours is a little bit different. It's more Iron Age, Welsh, Iron Age, Britain, Welsh, Celtic focused. So whatever. We're both ultimate.
Yeah. I have something else we can show off this week as well that we didn't show off last week, and that is our miniatures.
Oh yes, the miniatures. So that's gonna be part of this this campaign as well. Which is pretty exciting. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a pen, a Vunk, Fae touched here. You can tell they're Fae touched because of their horns and ears, and you can tell they're pen
Is that dressed technically?
Yeah, it's dressed, but he's pen of Vunk. He has these ears and these masks here that show these pen of Vunk. And then we have Meredivin, who's from the Penlevy Swamps. We have Flair. She's technically from the Penlevy, but she left when she was a child, and then she grew up on the Pencower Plains. And then we have Selwyn, who's going to be from the Pendraic clan. And then we have oh gosh, I can't remember her name. Aegir. No, not Aegir. Oh shit.
It's not Lyria, is it? Lysera? That's not Lysera.
No, it's not Lysera. It's her friend.
She's paying.
I mean, I can check. I can check.
I gotta. Wait, it's
That's I'm gonna get there before you because I got a PDF with
No, I wrote the story. I should know it. Eilir.
Oh, you did get it before me. Eilir, like Aegir. That's why I got confused. Yeah.
Yeah, Eilir. Yeah.
Eilir. She's gonna be from the Penbythe. So we got all 5 clans represented here: Penavank, Pendraic, Penbythe, Pencower, Penlevy. And then...
But that's not all.
That's not all. We've also got the 5 Fae here too. We have the Morgain of the Penavank. We have the Elil or Elil from the Penbythe. We have the Gwilion. No, it's not Gwilion. I always forget the spirit's name, but also Will-o-wisps from the Penlevy. We have the Coblin from the Pencower, and we have the cute little Booback and the little Woadstones from the Pencower. So, yeah, very excited for all this.
And the miniatures reflect the focus of the book, right? Which is
exactly.
Both the mortal element and the Fae element.
Yeah.
And when we say ultimate or definitive source book, it's drawing on history and folklore, but obviously, sublimating and through the lens of Legends of Avallen, the world of Avallen.
Yeah. I mean, the main difference between our world and the real world is just that we don't take historical names or historical events precisely, but then everything else is pretty much inspired by the culture of the time, the technology of the time, and then the mythological fantasy nature of the time as well, melded into a real world. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of like the Tolkien approach, right? Where we're trying to take also that inspiration, right? Where you're making its own fantasy world, but it's heavily inspired by source material and our readings and so on. So yeah, I'm excited to keep working on it and enjoy these awesome miniatures and see them on the table and paint them. I don't know. I wish I could paint. I used to paint miniatures like when I used to play. Yeah, when I was a kid, like 10 or 11, I used to be hella into painting miniatures, but I just haven't had the time to do it in years.
Let me see if I, because my good friend Alex, playtester, he painted the Fairy Queen, and it was amazing. I'm wondering if I have the image on here somewhere. I must do, but I wouldn't know how to find it.
Yeah, was it on your Instagram?
It was on my Instagram. Yes, you're right. I could just go on my Instagram to find it. Yeah. Well, let's just kind of take up time though. We can move on to something else.
Yeah, sure. Go follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram, and you can find it yourself.
Yeah, look for Darren Legends of Avallen, or what is your Instagram handle? It's the Legends of Avallen.
I think it might be Legends of Avallen or Avallen Legends.
Yeah, Legends of Avallen.
Sophie says, I have an insane pile of shame between D&T and Warhammer. It's not shame. It's miniatures to be. it's prospective miniatures. They are yeah, it's their hopes and dreams, not shame.
Who's your
who's your faction
army?
Yeah, who's your faction?
Who do you play in Warhammer? But I don't play Warhammer. It's something that's always been aspirational for me because I grew up. I didn't have like enough money to ever buy like an army, so I just always wanted to play it. I would love to one day design or fully play like skirmish. I really like skirmish role playing game rule sets. Like, have you read any of those, like Infinity or Malifaux or anything like that?
I've read some, yeah.
Yeah, like war games where you have like 7 or 8 figures. So that's like your game.
Actually, a good friend of mine. Here we go. We could do a shout out. A chap from Cardiff, who's in our local design community, makes a game called Forbidden Psalms, and it's kind of inspired by Morkborg because it has that kind of metal, comical lethality element to it, and it's very much a miniature skirmish game where you make characters using Morkborg, and then you have like 5 miniatures in your missions and do stuff. Yeah. Shout out Forbidden Psalms. Cool. Yeah.
I will check it out, Forbidden Psalms.
Yeah. And I've had time now to bring up our Fairy Queen painted mini.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, Dale's back. Hey, Dale.
Dale, what's up, bud?
What's up? Did you also miss our stream last week? If so, I have something to show you quickly. But right now, there's our Fairy Queen, and this was painted by one of our playtesters, Alex, who's a good friend of mine. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's currently not in my possession. It's actually at his house because I'm waiting for him to bring it over. But yeah, it's amazing. But you did catch the last stream. Good.
Wait, is that I did as in you did catch it, or you missed it? And when he asked, did you miss it? You said I did miss it. I don't know if that's a positive.
True. I'm guessing it means he did catch it.
He did. Yeah. He did miss it, so that means you get to.
Oh, he didn't. Oh, Kurt was right. Well, shoot me. Okay, my mistake. Okay, in that case, then let's show you something quickly. We've already shown Zolfia, but because we need to get on. But we have here the first work in progress mock-up of our next book, and the title for it, which is a Faeseeker's Guide to Avallen. And here is our book cover, depicting the Evermother and a Pen Levy warrioress. And this will be coming to Kickstarter later this year. I guess we did mention earlier as well that we announced our new kind of brand name, I guess, for all of our projects in this world that later will exist outside the Celtic realm as well, which will be a Songs of Iron and Stone. And yes, thank you, Dale, for exciting. We are very excited about it too. And in case you just got here, yeah, we've got some minis in the works as well for the
Yeah.
for the campaign. Some Celtic heroes and some Fae too. Yeah, it's all awesome.
And I guess, have we talked about this idea of Songs of Iron and Stone yet? Like, have we explained that in general?
Yeah, we explained it last stream, but we can mention it.
Oh yeah. But basically, we're really interested in, when we say expand, going to other places inspired by Iron Age cultures and building kingdoms and play spaces similarly to what was done with Avallen.
Yeah.
Like off the top of our heads, like Darren, you said you were really interested in doing the steps, right? Step sculpture.
Yeah, the Eurasian steps. And we want to do to Celtic mythology what we've done with Avallen, but to like the Eurasian steppes and to North Africa, and perhaps the Polynesian islands as well. Dale, the minis, they will be printed and as STLs. Yeah, they will be printed.
So you get.
Yeah.
So get both. They look really cool. So exciting times. A lot of cool stuff coming out for this campaign. So, and today we'll be making stuff for that. So by joining the stream, you'll be witness to it, and also possibly putting in your 2 cents. Isn't that right?
That's what we're up to. Yeah.
Darren, the Everfather.
Me, I'm the Everfather. Wait, why did you say that? Did you say that?
Well, you would be the Everfather. I would be the Everchild. I feel like.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah.
Or maybe I'd be the Ever Elder.
Yeah.
Probably. if we were to assign Godhead.
I think you'd be the Everchild, just secretly the Ever Elder in disguise. There you go.
Hey, spoiler alert! That's the name of the book.
Oh. All right. So what are we working on today? So last week we talked about fairy tricks, and fairy tricks are a kind of punishment mechanic that the Fae can inflict upon you if you use the powers they grant you without the permission or without doing something to favour them first, or if you use them too frequently. And fairy tricks, we're currently planning for them to be a tarot deck, and you flip a card from the tarot deck and it will reveal what fairy trick you'll be subject to. And they run the gamut from harmless whimsy to minor hindrances to something terrible and then to things that might be useful. And oh yeah, here's something I wrote down after our session last week to run by you. We were previously talking about how long these things will last for. And we kind of had the idea of, it lasts until your next rest or until the next day or something like that. We weren't quite sure yet. And then I looked through my notes and I had this rules idea of things lasting until a next Joker is revealed to make it like a random time period of how long something lasts. And I realized that would really work well for the fairy tricks. I wrote down here in all capitals, punishments last until next Joker appears, or if you're playing D20, until you next roll a natural 20. And I thought that was quite fun because then you don't know, it kind of feels more Fae and trick-like because you don't know how long you'll be subject to your prized item disappearing or a vestigial tail appearing out of your back. It could be for the next 5 minutes or it could be for the rest of the day, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are.
Oh, and Dale had a few comments. One is, did we run our titles for Godhead by the Evermother yet? Not yet. She's going to be mad if you found out we're talking about that.
But we did have her stand still for 2 hours as we painted her portrait for the cover. Yeah, she was
that's true. Yeah. That's why it looks so good. And gifts granted by the Fae always have a cost. And and I think there's this, they have a cost, but the things that we've been designing for it is there's like a range of like, where they're kind of inconvenient to severe, and you don't always know exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Capricious is probably one of the best ways to put it, right?
Yeah. So I think,
random and...
yeah, exactly. So tying into that, I like the idea of the punishments lasting a random amount of time and you not knowing exactly when they're going to end. And that works both ways as well, because if there's something useful for some reason, like you can levitate or you become invisible, then again, it could stop at any time. And yeah.
There's also something fairy story, because when you say that is when the next Joker appears, that encourages a play pattern of like, okay, I gotta take more actions in order to, more risky actions in order to encourage like a flip if I don't like this.
Yeah.
That also feels very story-like, right? Like, how do I get rid of this trick? I gotta do a bunch of stuff, and so I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Zilphia says she thinks that's good. There's always a price to pay, and random time is perfect. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Now, I think another important thing is as game designers,
Hmm.
and as we design this mechanic and we playtest it and so on, also making sure that players are encouraged to still use their things, right? Like they don't want to feel like, oh, it's too negative. That could also be that
Yeah,
could be a
yeah.
word.
So there's two things about that.
Negative.
Is that one? Uh, I think there's currently two ways you can get quote punished for it. That is, or rather, you can avoid punishment. I think I have this idea at the moment that if you do something for the betterment of your god or your Fae Court, then your Fae powers will then be free. So you can
Mhm.
do something to favour the Everchild, then your Booback granted powers won't have fairy punishments attached to them. Um, but then still, if you use them too frequently, then they will be. So there's ways for players to mitigate it by playing into the role of being a member of the Fae Court.
Mhm.
And then a broader design principle is just to highlight that during the last stream, we were writing down these ideas, and then I was doing the broad mechanic as a whole, like, yeah, these things last, but we don't know how long they last for. We discussed it briefly, but then I said, look, let's just leave that for now. We know they're going to last a certain amount of time. We don't know what it is. We can figure that out later, and that's okay. And then off stream, literally half an hour ago, I had that idea and came back and wrote it down. And
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
very, very happy with it. So you don't have to design everything at the same time all in one go. You can leave things breathe, leave them in the back of your head, come back to it later. You don't have to pin everything
Yep.
down immediately. Just acknowledge the broader space of, yes, these will last a certain amount of time. We don't know what that is yet. We can figure it out later. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's good game design, my friend.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, Dale. So
Dale,
yeah. Maybe quest to earn Fey titles. Yeah. So you missed last stream. I guess we can outline the Fey mechanic again now. To see what we're working with, right, Kurt?
yeah, for sure. So wait. Are you talking about the
How do you become a Faeseeker, Kurt?
currently the lore we've come up with is a Faeseeker is someone who's seeking out the Faerie Court in order to sort of have more. They kind of want to have the power of the afterlife now, right? So to do that, you have to seek out a Fae who's willing to make a bargain with you and making a vow. So either there's a couple of different ways to do that we've talked about. One might be sort of making it on a woad painted stone, a standing stone, a woad painted stone. That's a bridge between the two worlds. But you can come up with any different ways from mythology or folklore that would be appropriate, right? Like to seal the bargain, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you would get a power, a blessing, and whenever you use the blessing, then that'll play into what Darren was talking about, which is the Fate tricks if you abuse it or use it too much.
Yeah.
But yes, you'll generally seek out the Fae and make a vow with them.
Yeah. So how that'll work in game is that the player will choose the Fae Courts. You only be worshipping and favoring yourself with one particular Fae Court. You can't dilly-dally between all five. They won't allow that. You have to dedicate yourself to one of the five associated with our five gods and our five different Fae. When you do that, you then have to do things to earn their favor, just as you said, Dale. These can be things of doing quests in their name that favor them, defeating their enemies, giving them offerings is a great way to do it as well. And then once you reach a certain level of experience, I believe at the moment, you will then declare yourself to the Fae Court, as Kurt said, by making a song or carving something into a woadstone and burying it, or drawing blood and swearing a pledge. And then when you do that, you then have to announce the greatest things you've done in each of those categories. What's the greatest quest you've done for them? What's the greatest foe you've defeated for them? What's the greatest offering that you've given them? And that's up to you as a player to do those things and to remember them and keep them noted for when you make this pledge. And then the game master will then have the section that says what the Fae Courts prioritize, what they care about, and if your pledge and offerings and deeds are worthy, then you'll be granted the powers. And you'll then have to repeat this again at other tiers to gain more powers, and the things you have to do at those tiers will be greater. If you don't quite achieve what they might hope, you might still be granted your powers, but they might come with like a bigger twist or a bigger cost. And if you go against your Fae Court, then you will be summarily punished as well with many fairy tricks. Yeah.
And Dale has a good question. Once you choose, do you have drawbacks with the others?
I think I don't think it would necessarily be mechanically speaking, because obviously it can't be too much, because it's likely that members of the same party will be worshipping different Fae courts, right? That might come into conflict with other people, because one Fae court might want to do one thing, and another player in your group might want to do a different thing, and you'll have to work that out. But I think it wouldn't be great if you end up interacting with one Fae court particularly, and then they don't like you because one team member is worshipping another Fae court, that kind of thing. I think it's more that sometimes there will be a conflicts of interest, and you'll have to figure that out.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's definitely the narrative element that a game master will be able to develop, like, because we do intend to give a lot of background on the otherworld Fae noble houses, their courts, and hopefully that'll be a springboard for adventure ideas where those conflicts can come to play. I think we have this whole cosmology we've talked about in the past too that we're hoping to. I don't know how much of it we'll talk about in this book, right? Like the sort of I say world creation myths and stuff like that.
I think quite a bit, actually. I think I do want to outline the Valak creation myth in this book, and I do think we do want to tell the GM how it works as well, though, in the GM section.
Sure, yeah,
the players will get the creation myth, and the GM will get like some of the nitty-gritty details of stuff. Yeah.
So that is a bit of something that's written of our own invention to sort of reconcile how do you have a world with all these different sort of myths, right, and powers.
Yeah, especially for other cultures going forward as well.
Yeah, and I think it's satisfying, and it's gonna be fun to talk about.
Yeah, I'm excited. So that's Faeseeker. That's how you become a Faeseeker, or I guess. So then now today what we're talking about is what powers you actually get. That's what we're developing.
Why do you want to become a Faeseeker? I mean, lore-wise too. Like I have it in my head, and you can correct me. This is a conversation that we haven't had fully, but I think I've written about. But my headcanon is kind of like the Tilwith Tag, right? Am I saying?
That's correct. Yeah.
You're like, oh, look at me. See, I'm saying words correctly today. They're like the fancy nobles, right, of the fairy world.
Yeah, they are the Fae Court.
Yeah. But the Bubak and these sort of Avallen and things like that, those are also Fae.
Yes.
And so there's this kind of hierarchy of if they serve well, if a Bubak serves well, hypothetically they can transform or join the Fae Courts one day, right, and become a more idealized Fae and more closer to human forms. But I think one of the sort of goals of a Faeseeker, if they learn this cosmology, or they understand that, like, hey, these are Fae, and I want to make sure I'm really up there in my good graces, by seeking these powers now and serving their god now, everyone's now in that fashion, they're hoping to just sort of like fast track their way towards that, right? In the afterlife. I think is one of the intentions. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. Like if you become a champion of a Fae Court and serve their gods, like, and become a legend of such, then yes, you're way more likely to earn their good graces and become a Tilwith Tag in the next life and join the Fae Court essentially once you've passed on. But of course, the risk of that is that if you ever do something wrong, when you're in that high echelon of respect, then it's much farther to fall as well, and you don't want to earn the ire of a god directly if you're then going to pass your soul on to the next life. Yeah,
you're putting yourself on the radar right away, so you better make sure you.
I mean, so that's part of it, right? For balanced game design and narrative game design, is why doesn't everyone become a Faeseeker, right? Why isn't everyone in? So obviously the players will end up wanting to do it because it's more powers, it's more fun, and it's more interesting. It's an extra system we're adding into the game. But narratively speaking, why isn't every hero and adventurer a Faeseeker? And do you have your quick take on that? And I guess I can provide mine as well.
Yeah, my take on that would just be this is not a high fantasy, high powered world, right? This is a world where the way mortals perceive fairies and Tilwith Tag and the other world is that it exists and they acknowledge it, but it's something to sort of be respected fearfully, right?
Yes.
And that would be the sort of regular, that's like the standard. Like, even though we know the Fae exists, it's not like a Fae's walking into your tavern and be like, can I have a drink of beer? And then like, oh, it's the Fae again. No, like the way humans and mortals should interact with that world is similar to how traditionally humans reacted to those kind of things in the past, which
Yeah.
is you believe they exist and they're there, but it's better not to fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Would be my impression.
Yeah.
Did you have something? Did you have a different opinion or?
Yeah, no, the same thing. It's like, so the term Faeseeker is actually a derogatory term in Avallen, right? It's the word
Right.
used to someone that's crazy, because for exactly what you just said, the reasons. I would say, mechanically speaking and narratively speaking, for the adventures themselves, that yes, it grants you more powers, but they have risks attached as well. Like we said, if you use their powers while not in their good graces, or if you use it too frequently, then you'll be subject to the ire and the fairy tricks, which can be terrible in the wrong circumstances. If you suddenly lose your sword in the middle of a fight that's important, that kind of added randomness and chaos that you're adding to your adventuring life might not be for everyone. It's too much risk. The other part of it as well is that you're taking on some responsibility. You're kind of dedicating yourself to this Faerie Court, and then you have to do things to earn their favor. And if you stop doing that, then they will come for you, right? So it's kind of you're kind of signing up to lose some of your own, I guess, volition. I don't want to put it so strongly, but you're kind of committing to, yes, I'm going to help you out and do things for you going forward. And if you ever stop doing that, then things can go poorly. So I guess it's the same reason why most adventurers don't pledge themselves to clans necessarily. They want to roam free and take on their own quests. And so I guess that might be part of the reason why in world not everyone is a Faeseeker, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, similar to the real world folklore, right? There's parallels of people getting boons from, like, a classic story in Celtic folklore is the human who gets some sort of boon from the fairies, and then, like, he values it, and then after a year or two, they start to get lazy, and then they lose everything, right? Like the farmer who marries the fae, but he warns her not to, like, slap her 3 times on the back or touch her 3 times, and he does it accidentally, and then he loses all his children and all his livestock, and then he's ruined. So that's, like, I mean, obviously that's a different kind of story, because they're often having to do with, you know, like commoners, and not necessarily, that story doesn't have to do with an adventure per se.
Yeah, but we're going to have the same kind of thing. There's going to be rules for each Faerie Court, and if you break these rules, then you will be punished. So, yeah.
And they also, we mentioned different tiers, power levels of powers.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're working on today. So hold on for 5 minutes. Yeah.
And Rythano says, presumably born in 1989, love the fact that it breeds distrust of the Fae. And yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it's the Fae, like, the Fae are an interesting place, right? Like, I think another thing to be aware of with regards to Fae mythology is a lot of stuff that we have now, like a lot of mythology and things that were written down, they were solidified in, like, the 1700s, 1800s, right? Post-Christianity.
Yeah.
And so they're often trying to reconcile their mythology and things with, like, the one true God and Christianity and all that stuff. But that stuff didn't exist back then. And the sort of interaction with the afterlife and the idea of spirits is a bit different sensibility, right? Where basically you know that your grandma and the people you love would die and become Fae, but now that they're in the other world, it's very weird and just stay over there kind of thing.
Yeah. Actually, so we'll do a shout out now to the Myth Illogical podcast. There are a bunch of English chaps that do podcasts of myth, and they did a 2-part, 6-hour-long series on Fae that me and Kurt have been listening to as part of our research. It covers a lot of ground that we're quite familiar with, but it's nice to hear it from other people's perspectives and find things that we haven't seen before. And I must say, I don't want to complain or put people down, but they're doing a great job, but I feel like they're not picking things apart enough. And my example here is they told a fantastic story there seems to be 2 kinds of stories, right? There's ones where the dude marries a fairy, and there's the other story where there's a fae that helps out a household, which is like our Bubak. And in this story, the fae is helping out the household and cleaning it at night, right? And I guess we could say the whole story. So the story goes, there's a party that happens in the household. There's a lot of messes created during the party. The servants can't be bothered to clean it at night because the party runs long, so they'll say they clean it the next day. One of the young lads passes out during the party, and stays in like the living room with the hearth. And then in the middle of the night, he's awoken by someone walking into the room, and he discovers that it's a small little man who's essentially a fae, right? And the little man cleans the room. He tidies the dishes, puts everything back in its proper place. He sweeps things, and then he departs. And the little servant boy then the next day tells the other servants of what he saw, and they're in complete awe. They don't quite believe him, but they kind of do, and they're like, well, if that fairy is going to clean all our stuff for us, then we don't have to do anything, right? So we'll just leave the mess again the next day, and we'll see what happens. And so they leave the mess again the next day, and the boy again hides in the living room near the hearth and waits. And once again, the fairy comes in, and the little man cleans everything. And this time the boy approaches him, and he's surprised to find that the fairy is not angry or anything like that. He's not even tricksy. He just says, oh, I didn't see you there. The boy says, like, what are you doing? And then the fae says that, well, he's cleaning up. And then the boy says, yeah, but why? And he says that he used to be a cleaner in his previous life, but then he got lazy. And when he died, he was cursed to clean this house for the rest of his days, his passed on days. And the boy then kind of feels bad and says, well, is there anything I can do to help you? And the fae says, yes, it's a bit cold outside. Basically, I cleaned the room and then I have to go outside and go back to the other world. Yeah, it's a bit cold out there. And the boy says, well, I'll tell you what, tomorrow I'll come back and I'll give you a coat or something like that. And that'll keep you warm. And then the fairy says, that would be lovely, thank you. And so the next night, the fae comes back again, and he's about to clean the room, and the boy's there. And he says, look what I got you. And he got him his little tiny red coat. And the fae puts it on, and then he begins to laugh and cackle. And he says that he was cursed to clean this house for the rest of his otherworldly days until he was rewarded for his efforts. And he counts the coat as a reward, and then fucks off and just scuppers and disappears. And then the boy is then gutted because they've lost their house fae that cleans everything, and they have to clean the house again as they were supposed to anyway. And that's a lovely little story, right? It's fun. It's got a little fae trick at the end. He tricks the boy, and it frees the fae. And then they moved on. But what they missed here, which I thought was so interesting, is that the fae used to be a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the story, right? He used to be a person who cleaned this house, got lazy, died, and then was cursed as a fae to repeat it. And they completely skipped over that. They didn't even point it out or make it worth mentioning. But to us, that's really important. That's a key part of like the Celtic mythos of the other worlds and reincarnation of fae and that kind of thing. That's a big deal of the idea of what people believed back then. Yeah. So that was a part of the story, but they kind of missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, and as recently as like the book, there's this book that they reference that I'm trying to read right now called The Celtic Faith. Sorry, we're getting into the history, the nerdy stuff.
I mean, that's what we're here for. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's an interesting book because it starts with like the history of fairy in each like region, and then it talks about like primary source interviews, and the book was written in 1912. And they're interviewing people like, late 1800s, talking about, everyone believes in the fairy around here. Like, as recently as the early 1900s, it was just taken as a fact that, the fae are just, they are what they are. Like, they're Christian, they believe in this whole, like, Christian mythology, but they also believe in this fairy faith and this fairy mythology. Yeah. And the role of that book was to try to, like, reconcile the two, because they were Christian people, but also they were a fairy faith-believing people. So, yeah. I think that's...
I wish I remembered, but I always forget. If Jasmine was here, she'd be able to say. But there's an expression in Welsh that's still used today that literally translates as "blame the little people."
You mentioned it to me. Yeah.
I forget what it is and what it's used for. I guess it kind of means like unlucky, but I can't remember exactly. If anyone knows.
Well, yeah. A lot of the fays and the blessing and so on are always struck me as just like something happened. They're like, oh, it must be the fairies. Retimo says, Thanos says this is exactly what happened to me at my dorm. Got her biscuits, and then it all at your uni in your dorm. You got her biscuits, and then all went to pot. So yeah, it's happening to the modern day. Wait, where do you live? Where would you go to?
Well,
Where did you go to?
so Kurt, you actually know Rathmanos. Rathmanos is Alex, playtester.
Oh,
And
Alex, hey, what's up?
yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I wish I could have some magical biscuits turning to pot here in Japan. They don't really have that here.
All right, so should we start then? Yeah, we've.
Yeah. Let's get it. Well, we can talk about fairy myths more and more, but I guess we will in the sense of blessing. Because now we kind of have a background of stuff, and we're in the mood to talk about why. Okay, cleaning your house, right? You don't want a fairy. That's not a blessing you really necessarily want, or do you? I don't know. That could be a cool blessing to get from a fairy to clean your house.
Sure, but we're adventurers. We're heroes. We're legends. We want more than that.
Well, okay. For someone who is a commoner, that's like the pinnacle.
True,
right?
that's what you want. Yeah.
Right. No,
you want that and gold. Right?
Yeah. And gold. Man, we'll get to that story later about riches. But yeah, the idea that the Fae sort of do a thing for you, whether because you're compelled to, because of curse, because of their politics, because sometimes you don't know why. Why is the Fae prince or whatever king letting you marry his fairy daughter? It's inexplicable a little bit. They have their own designs. But basically something that makes your life better is often, the goal of the blessing.
Yeah.
So blessings that make you a better adventurer, make you more efficient, make you more well known. I think that seems reasonable. But now you said that we're looking for what? Between 20 to 25 blessings, is that right?
Well, I guess that means I can tell you. So I'm currently designing 4 for each Faerie Court. So I think it'll end up being 20. 4 to 25. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And you have some designed already?
Yeah, so we're working on... Dale, I just seen your message. I will check it out later, obviously. We are working on the Everchild, because we previously did the what it's like to be the worshipper of an Everchild. And then we're going to continue with what happens when you do that. What benefits do you gain? First, I want to talk about an inspiration of ours, which is the Theros D&D book.
Sure.
They have a similar system that somewhat inspired us, where they worship the gods of Theros, which is like the Greek-inspired realm. And by doing it, you gain like favor points, like a point system that we're not going to use. And then they gain 4 benefits, which are also similar to us. But the benefits, I think, are a little bit lackluster. They essentially gain a spell at tier 1. The use of a spell once per day, and then another spell at tier 2, and then tier 3 they gain some kind of defensive ability, and then the final ultimate tier they just get an attribute buff, like your strength gets +1 or something. And that wasn't particularly exciting to me, so I didn't take much inspiration from there regarding abilities, but from other things like having 4 tiers, how you might gain favor from the gods, that kind of thing. We draw from that book. So I kind of decided I didn't want to do that. I did like the idea of gaining spells, but I thought that might be just a fine ability for the first tier. Because a key part of this as well is we don't want to power creep our game, right? We're adding new options. We want it to be exciting and interesting, but we don't want it to be something that ruins the balance. And granting spells is something that's good in that vein, because you can already use spells at that kind of level, right? So if we grant lower tier spells, then we're not changing the balance of the game very much, or giving players access to things they wouldn't already have access to. But it can still be quite flavorful, because if you're worshipping the Everchild's Faerie Court, then you can gain illusion abilities, right? Because the Everchild is a god of tricks. And even if you're a warrior, you can't use illusion spells, but now you worship the Everchild's Faerie Court, well, now you can, right? So that's like a fun, flavorful way of doing things.
Yeah, and to clarify, this is something that goes on top of your legendary paths in your classes, your profession.
Yeah.
So it's a religious buff.
Yeah, exactly. So for that reason, we don't want to make them too powerful, but we still want to make them interesting.
Sure.
So
they have to be worth it.
Yeah.
You put into it, like trying to get it.
Yeah. So I put down here for us, this is like my structure I had the idea of, was 1, we do self spells, which I just mentioned. Then some kind of unique ability, because like that's the kind of thing that they were missing from Theros, I think, was some kind of unique power associated with that Faerie Court that has the flavor and feeling of it. Then some kind of defensive movement ability. And the reason why that came about immediately is because, well, if you're worshipping the Bubak, where's some Bubak artwork? Let me see. Bubak. Where are the Bubak bestiary? Here we are. These cute little fuzzballs here, well, they have like butterfly or dragonfly wings, right? And it just kind of feels like people are going to want to have those. So I feel like part of it should be that you should get wings, right? Not permanent wings, but you can sprout wings for a moment and you can fly like a fairy, like a Bubak. That kind of feels right for the Everchild. So I like that idea. I think that's a strong fantasy that people will want to have. It would excite people as well. Like, yes, if you worship the Bubak, you can gain fairy wings. Not permanently, but at least sometimes. I think that's cool, right?
Sure. Sure, your butt. Yeah.
And another part about it is I wanted an ability to be defensive. Because of this idea that we had of like when you use the powers when you're outside of the god's favor for the day, or if you use it too frequently, you can get punished for it, and with fairy tricks. And so to make that appealing, or something that you might do, obviously when you have active abilities, you choose when to use them, and you can decide not to do it. But when it's a defensive ability that can save you from something, well then I feel like then you can become more tempted to use it when you're not supposed to. And that leads to interesting decisions as a player, I feel like, because yes, you could fly right now to save yourself. Well, I guess you might have to fly right now to save yourself from falling, right? And you know you have that ability to take penalty, but you know you're not supposed to use it right now. But you do it anyway and suffer the fairy trick as a consequence of that. So I think having defensive and reactive abilities plays into that interesting dynamic of should I be using this now or not? Yeah, what do you think of that?
No, I like the conceptually that you're borrowing from, because the Bubak again are the sort of rank and file fate, right, of the court. And yeah, being granted their some of their gifts, that sounds a lot of fun. With regards to the defensive point, it's always going to be a choice, right? There's always volition there. Like,
yeah, but you don't have to use it.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you can imagine a defensive ability as being a static thing, right? But
yes.
In the case of like armor or something, but it's never going to be like a static armor thing. It's going to be an actual thing you have to consciously use in order to trigger. Yes,
yeah, exactly. It's an active ability, but one that plays into more defensive and reactive nature. Yeah.
Right.
We've got a bunch of comments in the chat. Do you want to read them?
Oh yeah. So Mr. Dale. So Rythanos, Rythanos feels like the spell gained that was more you channeling them, allowing them to conduit through you. Some mere mortals probably shouldn't be able to use their spells that are too powerful. Yeah, I think that's more too. Like, you're still immortal. You're using the power of the other world, but you would fry your circuits if you were to use the otherworldly ethereal powers too directly and too much. So that's definitely a power check on it. Dale says that he sent us a message for an idea that came to him for a new book for a PC path or an NPC that players might deal with, and sent it to me as well. Did you send it to me on Twitch or on Discord?
Discord probably.
Oh, okay, cool. Delphia said that's a cute idea. I think she's referring to the
flying.
What do you call it? The fairy wings, flying taking exactly. And I think that's a really fun. What excites me about that too is just thinking what it means to have what do you call it? A goblin, right? If you like, what is a goblin ability? And it makes you more empathetic to them, because I think by sort of gaining potential powers from these fey creatures, you identify with them more, and what makes them interesting for that court. If I could see something like, oh yeah, Everfather gives you the ability to like mine better or dig or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't come to that yet. That's the one I'm struggling with the most, so we can probably brainstorm that if we have time at the end.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, the Everfather one sounds like fun to me, so I'm down to talk about
that. Yeah. And then finally, the last ability again. Theros was an attribute buff, which is honestly super uninspired. And And my intent is just to make the unique ability even more somehow. Whatever that
Without
is, it should be better. It should just be like a better version of it, probably. Yeah.
Dale says you maybe come up with some random effects in addition to the abilities to add unexpected teasing powers. That's what the Faetrix are, actually. So the idea being that the Faetrix are the random element of these powers that you want to use.
Yeah.
So I think the gameplay pattern is that you have these powers that you are really interesting and that you want to use, but the cost is that random effect.
Yes, yeah.
That you're not.
I think we want the outcome to be random, because then that can lead to frustration with
Why would you use the power?
yeah, why would you
right?
use them if you don't know what they're going to do, kind of thing. Yeah. No.
Cool. Yeah. So I like those ideas so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the only thing that gives me pause is whether or not by saying super ability, whether or not that is a power creepy way of putting it.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. We'll find out together.
Yeah.
So I have drafted some ideas for the Everchilds. The powers that the Everchild and the Booback Faerie Court will
Lay it
grant you. In the end, I decided that granting spells completely, I didn't want to do that. I've decided that there will be like lesser versions of spells, but they'll be more powerful because you don't have to make a check to cast them. You just do it. And that's what Fae magic is. They don't have to check for using their magic. You just do it. You just activate it and it's done. There's no risk with the magic itself. The risk is using the Fae powers, and fairy tricks, that kind of thing. So these are kind of like smaller versions of spells. So for example, there is the illusion spell of Blur in our game, and that grants you advantages to hiding and advantage from being hit. For now, I had the idea of just the Booback power being, you just get it for hiding, not for defensive reasons, because they're tricksy in nature. And then another one was telekinesis, but you can't use it to damage things. You can just move things and manipulate stuff at a distance. I kind of like the idea of you getting 2 spells as opposed to just 1. It might be a bit underwhelming if you just gain the power to blur yourself. But then I often do that, where I kind of over add things that aren't maybe necessary. Like maybe just being able to hide yourself better is a fine like first tier power to gain as you first begin your steps towards becoming a champion of this Faerie Court. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Should it be 2 things? Should it just be 1 thing? Should it be 1 bigger thing that's more inspiring? Or is little things appropriate as like a first tier that you're gaining just as your adventuring career begins? Yeah.
You don't think it would be... Well, 2 things. 1, do you imagine that the Faeseekers, they won't get these powers until later on in their career, right?
Yeah, so that's a good point to mention, is tiers and stuff. Right now I want to mod someone, but I don't know how. I want to moderate someone's comment. I think
I am a mod. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I'm gonna pin it. I'm just kidding.
I can't do it for Streamlabs. Yes, you're right. So what tiers? So I'm currently thinking there's 5 tiers of play in Legends of Avallen. So let's have a look at that actually. Yeah, it's a really good point. Set up some groundwork there. Where are we?
Here.
Character growth. Yeah.
Let's see. I can just ban this person's account.
Yeah, just ban them and delete the comment. Yeah. Yeah, nice. So we have 5 tiers of play in Legends of Avallen. We have Apprentice, Adventurer, Veteran, Hero, Legend. And we have a list here of things that you get at those tiers. Now, it seems obvious to me that there's this level 3 here that has nothing going on. And that could be a fun place to add something. That said, it might be a bit difficult to gain the favor of the Fae in 1-2 levels, but maybe you can. And maybe doing it early on kind of adds it to the game immediately, so you know that it's there. And that's why it should just be a little thing as well. And the requirements of gaining their attention and their powers is a lot lower at that tier. Yeah, or alternatively, it could be that that's way too early and we have 4 tiers of abilities, so we could just do 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 tiers instead.
I mean, the folklore is filled with commoners and low-level people gaining the attention and blessings of the Fae, so I feel like that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. The other, and to your point about how many abilities it should be, my gut says, why not? It could be you could give a few different options, right? And then they could choose.
Oh,
if it was
right.
2.
So you're saying if it's 2, but you only give them 1, but they get to choose.
Yeah, let them choose, or either let them choose, or they get granted the blessing that's most appropriate to the situation, kind of thing, to their personality or to whatever they've done to serve the Everchild, right? So, for example, with the Everchild, if they've done things that are more, clandestine or whatever, then maybe they'll let the one that's hiding. But if they did serve them in the other way, like we can name the powers, and they can get the one that's more appropriate.
So it kind of like it's up to the game master which blessing they get.
Yeah, it's up to no, it's not up to the game master. It's up to the fairy.
Yeah,
it's up to the fae.
But yeah.
Yes. But that's I don't know.
I like the idea of choosing or choosing or granted by Fae. And then we can also then do as well, like once you get to a higher tier, you just get the other one as well, right? Then you get access to both of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think
yeah, that's kind of interesting and fun. And that then makes having these little abilities, I guess, more interesting, because then you have a choice to be made or a question of which one you end up getting, as opposed to being just given 2. Yeah, that kind of solves that problem for me that I had in my mind. Yeah, of 1 not being interesting enough because it's just a small little thing, 2 being a bit strange about why you're getting 2. This suddenly makes it, just that kind of fixes that. Nice one.
We're here to solve problems.
What is Rafna saying? And is it a joke? Let me find out. I have form start, but at part 3 the characters are more noticeable, so maybe offer more ways for them to interact with the gods, as the gods are starting to notice you more. I think I understand what you're saying. You have it from the start, but at part 3, so you're talking like tier 3, for example. Then the powers are more powerful. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I agree with that. So then here's the question then. If we have 5 tiers of play, should there be five abilities instead? Right?
Yeah, maybe. Because I think another thing that this can do is play into a more... There's different ways to adventure, right? What we're describing in the source book is both the clans, like stronger clan elements and stronger otherworld elements.
Yeah. And
the adventure hooks that we'll provide too play into that style of adventuring. And so, having one for each one, and from very early on too, is okay, because there might be a game master, or we might encourage a certain kind of campaign where we're telling the game master is have your heroes sort of align themselves with the gods early, and I think that's okay. It doesn't have to be early.
Yeah, here's another thought. What if this system is kind of unlocked at level 3? But then there aren't set levels when you get it later on, right? Because we were saying, how do you gain these powers? You have to petition the Fae Courts with deeds that you think are worthy, right? You can do that at any time. It's just up to you if you've done things that they think are worthy. So you could do it at level 3 and then try again at level 4 to get to the next tier. But the chances are that you've done things that are worthy between level 3 and level 4 are so slim that it's probably going to fail and you'll get egg on your face, right? We could leave it up to the players to decide, okay, I think I've done enough now to make it worthy for me to get the next tier. I will petition myself to the other ones and see if I'm worthy. I think I'm kind of leaning towards that. And we could have a suggestion that, you probably don't want to do it until every 3 levels because you need time to do things that are worth it. But fundamentally, I think it's kind of okay for the players to make their own luck there, I guess, and decide for themselves when they think they're good. What do you think of that?
I mean, I feel like part of this is the story. It's collaborative, right? Like, a thing that does worry me is the kind of environment that the game master is shaping with the players, right? Like, how early or how late do you want to bring the Fae into the Fae courts and all that stuff? Because it could be that you don't want to wait until later, right? So
well, that's part of it as well, because then we could just say to the GM, if you want to, it's up to the GM when these powers are unlocked, and they can do it at level 3 or they can do it at level 6, and then
Yeah, I don't necessarily want it to be a system where it's like, well, this is in play now, and I guess everyone just has to think about petitioning the Fae at all times in order to maximize the value of their characters, right?
Yeah.
Like you should have a strong narrative element to it, and so that's why it should be up to the game master in terms of the kind of arc of the stories that they're wanting to run.
You're right. We could do that as well. We could just say like it's up to the game master when tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 and tier 4 unlock.
I mean, you can have a suggestion. What we put in the system should be a suggestion, but I think that'd probably be the way to do it. Just so that it's not like I know what the Faeseekers are now. Everything I do is going to become a Faeseeker, and because I want more powers, and I want everything right now. It's like, if you're doing terrestrial adventures and and the game master isn't ready to show you all the secrets, it's cool that they want to know it, and that can be part of their character. And that could be also an interesting character, right? Like someone who really wants to get noticed at the Faerie Court, but it's like forever before they actually get noticed by them.
So, and I'm kind of against the idea of it being at certain levels. Like, do your Fae stuff by level 8 because that's when you're unlocking Fae stuff. Yeah, I think
right. Yeah. So I'm worried about that. I think there will be power levels, but since this is sort of additional sort of power framework to put on top of stuff.
Suggestion level 3 again to introduce.
So the right to know is go ahead and finish your typing.
Yeah.
We have some comments in the chat to chat about. And I guess it's something to ask you guys too in the chat. Like, how do you feel about this? Structuring, right?
Yeah, how do you, as a player, how do you feel about being in control over when you try to attain another tier in a Fae Court and gain new powers based on your actions? Or would you rather it be something that's set at certain levels and you have to do what you want to do before that level to try and achieve them?
Oh, don't talk about anything important. My son's here.
Okay.
No. Run. Hey, buddy. Sorry. A little Fae has entered the chat.
Yeah. Let's see what chat said. Dell says 5 tiers of each 2 spells. You can focus on 1 to get it at tier 5 and its most powerful manifestation, or you can take lower tiers or both but never be able to achieve the highest tier of that ability.
Go back.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. That sounds like essentially subclasses, right? You focus on one subclass or you multi-class between them. I think that's not exactly what we're going to go with. Like I said, I want to introduce these like unique abilities that aren't necessarily like spells. I guess they might be spelled like... No, they're not going to be like spells. You'll see in a second. We're just working on tier 1 at the moment. I wanted the early abilities to be like spells because they'll be familiar to players that are beginning the game, and I know that they won't break the game either because spells are something that players will have at that level. Rathanos says a spell ability. Yeah, sure. Okay, actually, I'll comment on more then. So yeah, you're right, Dale. So that is a way to do things. Although that is something that is the way that I like to design things, is to make categories, divide things up, and have people like choose between them and that kind of thing. It's very neat, and I like that a lot. But as I've kind of matured as a game designer, I've realized that trying to make everything neat all the time is often a self-detriment, and it's often a lot easier and more exciting if you allow each one to be its own thing and be designed in its own way and not constrain yourself with these kind of like structures. I do that a lot, and Kurt has done a very good job of pushing me out of designing in structures and encouraging me to not do that. So for example, right now, the structure is there are 5 Fae Courts with 5 gods and 5 clans. Like, it's very uniform. And then there will be 4 tiers of abilities, and that's already structure enough. I don't think we then want to make it even more constrained with a pattern that gets repeated between all of the things, even further down. Yeah. Even though it sounds cool, and I get it, I get the appeal. That's the kind of way that I like to design things. Well, it's my instinct to do that. There you go.
And it comes from this modern game design sensibility, right? Of giving things structure. But again, pointing to the folklore, things were messy and didn't make a lot of sense sometimes. And you can't have that in a game, but I do think there's something whimsical about it not being that, like, this is when you get the power, this is when in the min-maxing, because there's whimsy too in it sort of being unpredictable and not in your control.
Yeah. So what you wrote is really cool, but yeah, too structured, I think.
Right.
Rythanos says, do you want to read Rythanos? Sorry.
No, I did not. Unless they unlock when a certain action has been taken, to give the idea that the gods saw you do it and now they want to interact with you. And then see that's kind of in line with the idea of letting the game master as a Fae sort of decide as well, and can lead to role playing, right? Because what you're saying is you have a player that like wants to get the attention of the Faerie Court for whatever reason, and that's like an act of faith.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what this is. You're playing out.
So that's a really good point, actually. So what Rathanos said there essentially is like in world flavor that makes perfect sense, but how that actually plays out at the table is that the game master has to be monitoring what the players are doing and what each god cares about, and then if they've achieved those things, then unlock that tier. Right? There's a lot of information processing for the game master to do, and the reason why I've designed it the other way, which is that the players have to petition to the Fae Courts with the offering, with their song, with the carved lodestone of the stories, when they feel it's appropriate to them to try and do it. Because then the information processing is on the player to keep track of. The GM then doesn't have to care about it until a player comes to them and says, hey, look, I've done these things. I think that's worthy of recognition of my Fae Court. You be the judge of that. And then, only then, is it then on the GM to then decide, is it worthy of them getting to the next tier? So it's the same kind of flavor in the world, and that yes, I believe it should be unlocked when the players do things that are relevant, but I think that it's better if the players are the ones that activate that, as opposed to the game master, because then it puts all the onus on the players to keep track of these kind of things for each of them individually, as opposed to the game master keeping track of everyone. That's something I'm always conscious of when I design things, is how much information load are you putting on the game master, and can you put it onto the players instead? Yeah,
and then when we design it that way, then that does sort of speak in favor of making it clearer for the player as to when they should be petitioning. I guess I don't know. It's tricky. It's like this sort of push and pull of putting the constraints on or having the structure.
Yeah.
Because it would also be frustrating, right? To be a player that's like, I think I did all these things, and the game master is just like, no, it's not time yet.
Well,
but that's
that can go the other way around as well, I guess. But yeah, we'd have to just write guidance into the book to make that work.
Although, maybe that'd be similar to actual religion as well, right? No, you're not ready yet. Maybe that's fine.
Raphael clarifies and says that they were thinking that starts off. Says, oh yeah, okay, then yeah, totally agree then. And Dow says maybe have a new ability triggered by an event of some kind during one of the 3 levels of a tier. Maybe some card roll combination of cards in a series to add the Fae element to it. Yeah, exactly. I had considered that as well, actually, previously. Is that when you gain a tier, you kind of make a check. Yeah, that's on my options as well. All right, I think we should move on now to actually doing abilities. We're running out of time, I guess. We've got 40 minutes.
All right, let's do it. But also, you missed a comment in the chat, which was when my son walked in the room. He said, "Bye, Darren."
Oh, did it? Sorry, Ren.
I don't think you caught that.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. No, I love Ren. Okay, so I think we're kind of agreed on like early spells being interesting. I liked your idea of choosing between them or being granted one of them.
Yeah.
That kind of like solved that issue for me. Then for unique ability, I had 2 ideas for the Other Child. I think I'll do the first one first, I guess. I kind of wrote down like a list of like ideas associated with the Booback and the Everchild, and one of the first ones that came up is luck for games and tricks. Like it should be in your favor to be able to do games and tricks because you're worshipping the Everchild. That's kind of their thing, right? And so now I had this idea that you can basically gain a super edge. So this is a card that you take from the deck and you get to keep it and look at it, and then you know what it is, and then you can use it for any check that you're involved with. So you know that if you've got like an ace of spades, then you know you can crit on a social check whenever you want to. But I thought that might be a bit too powerful because you can just keep it forever. So I had this idea that you can only keep it until a Joker is revealed. Again, that kind of thing where things last until a Joker is revealed. So you don't know how long you get to keep it for. So you're kind of encouraged to use it soon. The longer you wait, the better you'll be able to utilize it, but then there's a chance that you might lose it. And it kind of has that Fae tricky kind of feel to it for you and for your opponents, and that they don't know what you've got. You have this card up your sleeve, literally this card up your sleeve, that you can use it in your favor. I guess the question as well is like it could be restricted to how you can use it, or that might be part of the Everchild's restrictions of their abilities. So if you don't use it for games and tricks, then you gain a fairy trick against you, but you can still use it. So that's the first idea. The second idea I had that kind of came later, which I'm kind of slightly enamored is that the Everchild is the god of tricks, so you should be able to use fairy tricks against your foes. So you can flip a fairy card and see what trick you inflict upon them. I thought that was quite interesting because it utilizes the cards. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like fun as well. It's like, oh yeah, these things happen to us, but what if we can use it against them? The Everchild is kind of the perfect candidate for that, and you don't know how powerful this is going to be because, well, it has a random outcome, right?
Right.
You could make it more strong by saying like you draw 2 and choose 1 to inflict upon them. So there's a bit of agency there, and that could be more fun. But yeah, what do you think of those 2 abilities? Do you think it's in the right kind of space? Do you have a preference? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think the spaces are good. The third sort of part of his portfolio is that of merchants, and so something to do with like supply or trading or socializing in like economic situations might also be like a thing. With regards to luck for games and tricks, I think obviously that seems like pretty decent, but I also wonder about your thoughts if we're talking about having luck, would having something that interacts with like the tempting fate system make a lot of sense? Like,
yeah, you could do, but that isn't always in play, which is a concern. Like if you gain this power and you can only use it sometimes.
But yeah, but that's still okay. Well, I don't think that's necessarily that bad, especially if it's a good thing, right? Where in a situation with fate, does it mean that you get an advantage in tempting fate? But you're right. Like maybe if you want the power, it's more attractive. It's more.
And honestly, that feels a little bit more Ever Elder-ish to me, like time manipulation and all that kind of thing.
I see. Okay,
yeah,
that's
it's a bit
fair.
more, it's a bit too serious as well. But I like that idea. I hadn't even thought of that actually. That isn't even on my radar of. Let me write that down. Of giving players ways to interact with fate cards. That's really like godlike and otherworldly, powerly. I really like that actually.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
To interact with fate cards. I mean, that could be like the super version of ability, right? Like you can have a minor version of it, and later on it can. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, let's play that space. Sorry, go back to the powers. Yeah. So now you're talking about getting lucky, keeping a card, using for a check, it gets shuffled away. Okay. First up, let's talk about it because I think it's a bit harder. I do like it fundamentally, but there's something about it that needs to be worked out for it to feel better for me. For the fate tricks against foes, I like this conceptually. I think you could also make it a bit more. It could be a bit more fun. And by fun, I mean random. Like if it were maybe you choose an ability, right, to trigger it with. Like maybe the fate trick is vigor or spirit or whatever, and then when you flip it, basically it'll use a fate trick on your opponent unless it's the opposite of the ability that you're using it with, in which case it'll affect you instead, kind of thing.
Okay, but then why would you use it?
No, because there's only a 25% chance that it'll hit you. There's a 75% chance that it'll affect your opponent.
I mean, I'm already against that just because the random punishment part is also a part of like the fairy tricks we mentioned before. Like there's still, if you still use this power outside of the purview of the Faerie Court, you will still get a fairy trick against you as well.
Not necessarily, right? Because
it
could be. What I'm arguing is.
Yeah, that's a part of the rules.
I'm saying. Yeah, but what I'm saying is specifically for this power, if it's a chance of you getting inflicted with it, and you do get inflicted with it, that you don't necessarily have to get double punished, do you?
Well, you would do, yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm just saying that's not going to work. Don't worry. Forget that idea.
Oh man! All right,
sorry.
Fine. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun idea, but
well, because it's already part of the system, right? It's like if you use it like I said, outside of the favor of the court, then you will get a fairy trick against you. That's part of the rules of the system.
Yeah. But
so there's a chance of 2 happening.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
Is
funny.
it awesome? I don't know. That's awesome. I mean,
That's what I'm
we
saying.
literally mentioned to Dal earlier. We don't want the outcome to be necessarily too random because then
Fair.
why would you use it, right? And having it
Yeah,
randomly
fair, fair.
punish you as well, it's makes it even
Well,
worse.
yeah. Generally, you don't want it to be that way, but again, it doesn't. Not everything has to. I'm just saying is sleep on it. I think
Okay, I'll
it's
sleep on it and then dismiss it.
yeah,
But
and then just
but fundamentally, using the Fey tricks that punish you against your opponents is a fun and interesting idea, right?
yeah, and like it's not like they're all extremely
So reading
whatever.
Raphanos's comment, he says Kurt sounds like a brutal GM. Yeah, I agree.
Well, no, because okay. The other thing though is that not every fairy trick is extremely punishing, right?
No,
Like there's still a range there too.
yeah, but then you're just using your power and getting nothing from it. Okay, we're
Oh,
dropping
oh,
it. Like,
oh,
we've only got so much time, and I'm saying that one foot down. No, sorry, Kurt, not happening.
yeah.
It's
Wait,
okay.
one
I'm
more,
vetoing it. I'm
one more
vetoing it.
supplication.
Yeah,
One more
sure.
supplication. You ready for this? You ready for this?
I mean, no, but go on. I'm not ready.
When you use it, so you choose the ability, and yes, it goes on your opponent,
Yeah.
your foe that
Yeah.
you target it with.
Yeah.
But if it's the opposite ability, both you and your opponent get the Fey trick. Both of you.
No.
So it always happens. Man, all right. That sounds
Yeah.
like fun to me, but
Yeah.
bygones. So we'll talk about this off stream. I think
Sure.
it's fun. Okay, but basically the idea of inflicting Fey tricks on your opponent, yeah, it seems fine. I mean, I think we have to design the Fey tricks deck first fully,
Yeah.
and be like, okay, this is probably reasonable.
Yeah.
And some of them might not be. I mean, this is assuming. I think it would be brutal if every Fey trick was extremely serious, but that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
And it can also be comical. It seems like a thing a Fey would do, like especially if you have the Fey trick where your nose gets bigger or something, but it happened to both of you when you inflicted it on your opponent. That's like comical. That's like classic Fey trickery. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Rathos also says, I like something that feels more like a silly children's game. Like Simon Says, mid-combat. That gives you a buff to card draw and checks. Yeah, actually introducing a game, like a sub-game, or a children's sub-game is an interesting idea.
Sure, a game that uses dice.
Sure.
No, that's a fun idea. 3-card Monty. Just play 3-card Monty. Pull some of our knocks. play a mini card game. Play blackjack.
Like Simon Says. What? Blackjack isn't a children's game.
I'm just. It's a children's game. You can. Well, okay, it's not a children's game with counting.
Or like riddles, right? Like riddles. Yeah, but that's maybe it's difficult for onus.
Pull out jacks. We should. Yeah, I guess we should do. I mean, part of the research for the book, I'm gonna write that down for myself. I want to research ancient Celtic children's games. I got to make sure we know that.
I mean, that's hard to research, but yeah, we can have a look into it.
Yeah, kids are all research ancient or Welsh children's games. Sure, hold on, let me see where my chat is. Okay, there you go. Was your childhood in Vegas? Well, yes, I grew up in California. Thank you for asking. Dude, I played a lot of gambling games as a kid. What did you? Okay, I know you're British, so what did you play as a kid?
We played
what were your
runouts.
go-to? Was that?
Runouts.
What's the runout?
Runout is like tag but better.
No, I mean card games. Like card game. What did you play as a kid?
We did
cards?
play. Oh, you're talking about card games. I'm talking about children's games, but card game
okay.
as a kid. I guess Go Fish, right? Is like the go-to children's card game, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess my children's card game.
Oh yeah, British Bulldog, Raphanos. That was good. I guess that is also like tag but better. Yeah.
I mean there's who am I thinking of? What's the name of the Irish hero whose name I can never say? They basically
Cool Culane, yeah.
Yeah. Like the first story is when he's a kid is like he basically plays dodgeball against like 100 kids and like bashes them all in the face with a ball.
Yeah, sure.
You heard that story? Play dodgeball.
All right. Okay. I'm. Okay. And then, but by the way you're talking about things, the way I'm thinking about things, I feel like like the using Faetrix against people is probably the most interesting and exciting.
Sure.
I like what Rathos says about the children's game thing, but I feel like that might be something that I would put into the like favor generating system, like the way you gain favor with the child's cause might be to do things like this, right?
Also feels like an adventure hook of like when you're in the other world, like you have to play. It's like Squid Game. You play these like lethal versions of children's games because they're immortal.
that sounds like a fun quest idea. We should just put that in like the.
Yeah, okay, write that down.
Yeah.
Write Celtic, write Welsh, Celtic Squid Game.
Celtic Squid Game West with
Adventure
children's
hook.
games, riddles, etc. Yeah. Okay. Then I mean, I guess I've kind of already sold you on this. For like the defensive, like movement power should be booback wings, like temporary booback wings, temporary booback wings. What does that mean? I mean, I guess it means you can fly to somewhere high, but not fly up in the air forever. It means you can stop yourself from falling. But I also like the idea of you gaining a benefit against the Faeseeker that opposes your Faerie Court, right? So for the booback, that's the Kawer, the giants. And I think that these wings should allow you to like avoid attacks in combat, right? You should be able to flutter to a space and avoid a strike of a cumbersome.
That's really brilliant. I love that idea. That feels like a very that's a fun idea. Right now, make a note of that. I feel like every defensive ability should specifically be good against.
That's my design intention. Yeah.
That's
they're
good.
all good against the extra. Fly to a place, survive falling, and then slippery to resist big foes with big attacks, like big power. So then there's that's like versatile ability that you can use to do different things, which means it will come up often, which will tempt you to use your powers more than you should, right? Yep, and it's flavorful. And then the super ability. Now, again, I just said super ability because I think it's interesting design where you have an ability earlier that then gets powered up later, which is kind of what Dale said earlier, actually, to be fair. But I did have other ideas as well, like gaining benefit from technology somehow. It's very much in the Everchild's domain, and that kind of ties into your trading that you mentioned earlier. And then also super shapeshift, but I feel like every Fae could have that. Every Tower Taker can have that, so I'm kind of more leaning towards to just upgrading a previous ability, I think. I think that's more interesting. And then I guess the question is then, how would we upgrade the Faetrix against foes? I guess it could target multiple foes. And I actually, that's a really good question, actually. So maybe we should go back to this for a second. If we can use Faetrix against foes, is there any restriction on that? Like, if you're fighting a dragon, can you Faetrick them? And there's a chance that they like disappear? Like, is that okay? Are we okay with that being in the game? Should there be a check, but then there's a chance that it doesn't work and that feels bad? Or should there only be a check against certain tiers of foes? I guess basically, should there be a spell saving throw, essentially? What do we think about that?
I mean, I think it's fine to make a check for it, right? In which case, like talking, then we have to flesh out what it means to do that, right? Like, what does it mean to say, like, using this ability and deciding on which attribute it would use? Most likely, I guess if it's aligned to like a god, you can say like they have to use wit or something, wit or agility. Zilphia also mentioned glide instead of fly. Oh yeah, for the booback wings, it could be gliding instead of flying.
Yep, that's fine.
Although gliding would be worse against giants.
Yeah.
So that would be one knock against that. Going that way.
I mean, if we say with the same throw as well, then that could make it more interesting because then we could tie into what Rathnos was saying as well. It's like there could be a way to set it up better so you have an advantage to doing it. It's like if you trick them beforehand or if you best them at a game, then this power is more likely to work, right? You could do things like that.
Oh, sure, you get an advantage or something.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, and then what would be the super version of it? I mean, I guess it could work against more powerful foes, or maybe you just draw 5 and choose one, right? Like you get
Sure.
to pick, like,
Choose
yeah,
choose the real big ability.
yeah.
I
You can
got you.
like multi-effect people, or flip 5 cards and choose one, uh, and choose one, which is kind of exciting.
Now,
So
now we're assuming that you have the tarot deck to make this like easy.
yeah,
But there's a if someone doesn't have the deck, does that mean that they'll be like, how would someone use this mechanic without the deck? Like,
well,
are we
we'd
doing
have a
tables?
table, and you'd roll dice, I assume. Yeah.
So you'd roll like 8
Yeah.
times, and
Yeah, I
then
mean, originally we were going to use a normal poker deck for it, which means that anyone can do it with a normal poker deck, which is kind of the theme of our game. But then you suggested, I forget who, a tarot
Yeah.
deck instead. And
Yeah.
that appealed to me because there's more space to write on them. And also it differentiates them in play between your action deck and then less Faerie deck, which is different. So I think it's good that the deck is physically different because it is a different kind of deck. So
Yeah.
because of that, then yes, you could use a regular tarot deck, or
Yeah.
you can roll dice from from a table. I think that would be fine too.
Not to mention that if we're also using the actual, I mean, I'm assuming you're using the tarot numbers, right? Like crown, 3 of cups or whatever.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah,
So that we should also be considerate of that in these game design choices, right? Because
Yeah.
it could be too that you decide on magnitude based on that, if it's 3 or more, 3 or less, or whatever, or using it to target with numbers.
yeah. That could be a thing. Yeah, that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Or if
so
we
that's
just, or the way we structure them as well, it could be like the harmless things are like at lower numbers, and the more severe things are at higher numbers,
yeah,
and
yeah.
face
So
cards and
there's
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. So they're just being mindful of that as we finalize designs.
Yeah.
Which I guess we will once we sort of create a spreadsheet for it and like start saying this is the 3 cups or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that'll affect how you view these kind of abilities too, because it could also be when you're talking about multiple people. It could be like, flip over this ability affects the number on the card or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's more powerful, the more powerful the effect is in theory.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Actually, here, do you want to hear something that is someone just knocking on my door? You entertain chat for 1 minute. Let me see if I can answer it. 1 second.
Okay. Well, I don't know exactly what Darren was going to say, so I'm assuming that there's an Amazon driver at his door dropping something off. But yeah, I like the idea of having a cool tarot deck. But how do you feel about it? Hearing about this, knowing that, I mean, it's interesting. Because tarot is a French invention, if I'm not mistaken. But so are like cards general, I think, like bicycle cards. But I want to have fun with a cool looking, tarot deck, Celtic themed tarot deck with Druidic and Celtic symbology on it. Zilphia says that they love tarot decks and you own 3. Very cool. Do you? What are they? Different themes? What are the themes of the tarot decks you own? Because I don't own a tarot deck yet. Actually, I just look at them longingly, and I don't actually have one. But what are the ones you have if you do have a tarot deck? I'm curious to hear. We did some initial market research too, and we found that Celtic themed and Druid themed tarot decks are very popular online. So it feels like, oh, this is a good chance to share with people. Okay. Oh, cool. So you have a Japanese fox theme, a dragon theme, and a dark fae deck. Oh, there you go. Ooh, I'd love to see your dark fae deck. Like, is that something I can find online? If you have a link to it and you want to share it with us, please do.
Sorry about that. Just being a good neighbor and taking packages for next door.
I got you.
Well, what have I
Zilphia,
missed?
we were just talking about tarot decks and whether or not they have any. And they
Yeah. Because people have been asking.
Legend.
Oh, go on. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, yeah, Dale said that a lot of tarot decks are Arthurian legends, which plays into Celtic mythology.
Yeah.
And Zilphia says that they have a Japanese fox theme deck, a dragon theme, and a dark fae deck.
Oh,
And
I
she
want to
just
look at this. Yeah.
Dark fae. So, good reference point. So yeah, our intent is that obviously this tarot deck will be used for these mechanics. But if someone is just a fan of tarot decks too, they can also just use it for as a tarot deck as they like. And then other games that have Fae in them that aren't Legend of Avallen can also use these for ideas and.
Actually, there we go. So two things. One, people have been asking for us to do it for a tarot deck since the first Kickstarter, and that kind of helped encourage me to do this. Second, Zilphia, if you like tarot decks, what's your opinion? So, how would you feel about a tarot? Do all tarot decks for you have to have an artwork depicted on each card? So when it's the Two of Cups, does it need to have an illustration of someone holding two cups on there for you? Or is it okay to have it stylized to have two cup symbols on it instead? And reserve illustrations just for the
major arcana.
The major arcana, yeah, and the the Jack, Queen, and Kings as well. What is your thoughts on that as a tarot deck?
Yeah, or anyone that has experience with tarot decks.
Because I think the way we'll be doing it is that we'll only have illustrations on the major arcana, and we'll have just symbols for the numbered suits. But I'm worried that might turn people away. But I've also seen decks where that's normal, so I want to know on your thoughts on that.
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is they'll still look good.
Yes, they'll look amazing. Yeah.
And they'll have text on them.
Yes.
You know what? Maybe you can make a stretch goal that if it hits a certain number, then you'll get art for the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a fun idea. Let me write that down as well.
Yeah, I like that idea because it is we would love to have art for every single card.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of art.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's definitely a financial consideration. It'd be awesome to do. Yeah, I don't know. We'd have to work out the budget, but it'd be cool to have every piece done. But I'm hoping it's not a deal breaker, right? Because I see tarot decks too that just have the symbols. So hopefully people will get behind it either way.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we? So we just done. I'm actually kind of happy with where we ended up settling. The idea that you get to choose a spell or you get either of them. Fae tricks against enemies for the Everchild's ability makes sense. Be able to fly as the next ability, and then making the first ability even more powerful as like your capstone. This feels like a good tight little package that feels like you're becoming a Bubak or a member of the Faerie Court at least, because you'll have hiding, manipulation, tricksy powers. You can literally do Fae tricks on enemies. You can fly. And flutter around, so that feels good. Yeah, okay. What does Zilphia say? Do you want to read that out, Kurt?
Oh, typically you need some kind of artwork along with the cups, as more than just the cups that are used for the reading. But if it's just a deck to be used for the game and not intended to be used for divination, you're good. Okay. Yeah, I would love it for used for divination too. I would love someone to make life choices based on the art and design of shit. But sure. So good to know.
I guess then. Previously, when I made poker decks, I've tried to appeal to people that also just like poker decks of cards, and I guess then for this tarot deck, it will be a game piece. That is a tarot deck as well, and I won't necessarily be appealing to people that just like tarot decks for, like you said, for divination reasons. Although I guess it would be a shame that people can't use it for that as well. But hopefully,
unless
yeah.
Like I said, if we make it a stretch goal and we price it out and it makes sense, it could be that people will just back it even more for that reason, right? Like people might just be like, nah, your art's good and we trust, because you are the art director for any nominated game with excellent art and excellent artists. Yeah. And that might be something people want to see. So. Yeah. Hi, Rathanos.
Liz, Alex, thank you for popping by.
We're only here for a few more minutes ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's not
true. Yeah. Appreciate your insane ideas and excellent contributions as always. Actually, you've been pretty tame today. All right, so then we're kind of done with this. We can just brainstorm other god powers then if you want. The spells we don't have to pay attention to. Really, it's unique ability and the movement, right? They're
Sure.
interesting.
Well, you mean just spend the last 5 minutes just riffing?
Yeah, exactly. So we've got the Morgan of the Ever Elder. We've got the Coblin for the Ever Father. We've got why can't I remember the ghost's name? The ghost of the Ever
Grill.
Grill.
Willie?
Yeah,
Willie?
yeah. Thank you. It is that. I was saying Gwydlon earlier. With Ever Stranger, and then what's missing? Oh, the Elil, the Ever Mother, right? So Morgan, I mean, the movement ability kind of makes sense there. It's obviously going to be like being able to swim underwater, right, and hold your breath forever, kind of thing. I feel like.
Yep.
Swim underwater, hold breath, right? Or rather breathe, I guess. Breathe underwater. The ghosts, I feel like some kind of ghost form, like be able to move through walls, that kind of thing. Maybe that's too strong and better than the other ones, but it kind of makes sense, right?
Sure.
I guess maybe it's not too strong if you have to leave your body behind. Then, like, you astral project instead, and then you can go through walls, but you still have to leave your body there.
So astral project, yeah. Or
yeah.
speak with us. Astral project, speak with dead would be another one.
Yeah, I feel like the speak with dead one. I'm talking about specifically the movement defensive thing. So the thing that makes you good against fighting against the yes, better weapon it. So yeah, for the Morgan, fighting against the Avant, right? So being able to swim would be good at that, but also I guess like mind resistance powers as well would be useful too, right? But I guess the swimming thing is more important, right? Because then it can't drown you. You can outmaneuver it. Yeah. Whereas against the Ever Stranger against the Mucker Levy, I feel like then it's necessary to like have like mind control resistance or something. I don't know how that would work.
Doesn't it like fit acid?
Again?
Yeah, I mean, the Mucklevy is just kind of a horrific creature.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I guess, yeah, becoming insubstantial. Ghost form seems OP, though.
But is that OP if you have to leave your body behind?
You leave your body behind. Wait, so they can still kill your body?
Yeah, and it's still vulnerable.
Yeah, that just seemed like a good defense against the Mucklevy. Later, guys. You just like walk out of your body.
I mean, or we could just do like, I mean, you say it's OP, but you could just make it temporary, right? It's just like the flutter from the booback. It could just be a temporary thing.
I mean, becoming insubstantial or whatever, or incorporeal, feels like, I don't necessarily think you have to leave your body, but I do think if it's like a thing where you become insubstantial but you can't affect the world, that's a good defense. But you also can't help your friends if you sort of become insubstantial. But it could be a good failsafe to make sure one of you survives.
Let me put question marks again. And so, what other defensive or you want to become like the Gwyn, right? You want to become like, that's what this is about, right? You're becoming more like the Fae. So let's go find out what those Fae are like. The Gwyn are the children of the Ever Stranger, inheriting his fervent urges and frivolous disregard for life. They appear as floating, glowing orbs, as well as cloaked person-like spirits. With are cold and unpredictable. With can be seen at night haunting grave sites, battlefields of the sick, blah 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 blah. The schools of magic are ethereal, because they have like ghostly forms, right? They can terrify people, they can move through walls, they can disappear. Yeah. I guess being able to disappear is kind of similar. Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool to become a will-o'-the-wisp, right? That's kind of badass. And I don't necessarily think you have to leave your body behind.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think about the idea pursue too when you have time. Yeah, thank you, Dale. We're talking in Discord, so it's hard to chat to check other things in Discord at the same time. or an astral projection. You could use to scout something. That's a fun idea too. Like if you could will-o-wisp and like do some reconnaissance.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
especially-
will-o-wisp is better than ghost form, because ghost form kind of implies that you can like touch and do things, but if you're just like a floating glowing orb, then it's like a bit more restrictive. Yeah.
Yeah, and it feels very, Celtic mythology.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's fun.
Yeah, I like that. It's just funny how just like a slight reconceptualizing of it, of this thing instead of that thing, changes it and makes it more interesting. Yeah, that's good. Now the Goblin one, I've been umming and ahhing about a lot. Originally in my head, it was like the Everfile was all about like combat prowess, that kind of thing. So you could become stronger and faster, but then it was literally just you on this stream said, yeah, it's making you become like the Fae. And I was like, wait, the goblins do enjoy fighting and war, but they do it like en masse in number. One goblin by itself isn't necessarily particularly strong, although I guess they are more vicious than the Booback. So what would becoming like these things be like, and why would it be good against dragons? Now you said digging and mining, right? And that kind of works, because if you can go underground, then you become immune to like a Drax flame breath and that kind of stuff. And
my image of this is to basically dig up a dirt shield or something.
Right. So like you should be able to like, well, should you be able to move through Earth?
Move through it or manipulate Earth like super efficiently, right? Like I'm thinking of Earth bending from Avatar, right?
Yeah.
Like you create stuff like
well, the things we already have that in the game, though. We have the those
like
spell powers for the thing. But yes, I'm still kind of on board with it. Like move through Earth or manipulate Earth. Yeah, 'cause I like them to be movement related, because that means you can use them outside of combat as well in interesting ways. So if you can move through Earth or manipulate it, that allows you to travel certain distances in caves or sneak into places like under things.
So Dale's suggesting either fire resistance or melting into the earth and reappear in other spots. So if you've ever seen Naruto, so you're suggesting the sort of earth jutsu where he goes underground and comes out.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. And obviously if you're encapsulated in earth, you become resistant to fire, which Dale also mentions. Yeah, exactly.
Another space to play in, and I don't know what you think about this, is we don't have leprechauns yet, actually, anyway. But there's this, concept in the folklore that in the other world, precious metals are very common, like gold or whatever. But iron is not.
Yeah.
But they have like a lot of gold or whatever. Is there a way to like manipulate like common, like a precious metal that's kind of like a fool's gold? Like whether maybe gold comes to mind because they love precious metals or whatever. But I mean, gold doesn't make a very good shield or weapon, but it's still a metal.
Well, there's two powers, right? One is the Fae-like movement ability where you become like a Fae, and the other one is going to be the unique ability as well. So we could play in that space for that one.
Okay. Yeah. I like moving through the dirt.
Yeah, I think it's good because we got move through water, we've got move through the spirit realm, we've got move through the air, we've got move through water. I think I already said that. And then there's the Evermother, so become like the Elil. And I mean, I guess we're talking like Dryad form, move through trees, right? But that's kind of similar to move through Earth. But yeah.
Well, wouldn't a tree be immovable?
Sure.
You plant your roots, and so you can't move.
Yeah, immovable. And
like bark kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess that helps against the great boars because they charge at you and knock you around to become immovable and immune to like conditions or something like that.
Yeah, it's like barks, like skin bark or bark skin or whatever.
Like tree form, yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
That kind of feels more Evermotherly as well, because she's a lot
defensive, right? Like really defensive.
Traditional, like literally rooted and grounded and slow to move, right? The Evermother is like the one most stuck in the past, I feel like. And literally stuck in the old ways, so being stuck and rooted in place feels a part of that. Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to stop there, or do you want to try the unique abilities as well in the last 6 minutes?
I hear my son. I hear my girlfriend wrestling with my son in the next room, and
Cool.
I feel like I should.
We can stop early. That's cool. That's good though. We're good. Let's wrap up here then.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, guys, for all the ideas. Being a wall. Yes, being a wall of earth. Yeah. We'll figure. We got things hashed out. I like the ideas that we've talked about today, and we'll see. And I'm sure we'll have, like we said, we'll have multiple things to make sure that players who end up getting the abilities, they'll have places to play with, things to play with, and like if you have two people in the party, multiple people in the party who worship one of the Everones, then they can have different abilities for sure.
Yeah. That's exciting, right? You gain some little spells, and then gain a unique power, which for the Booback would be inflicting Faetrix on other people, which just sounds so much fun. And then you can fly. I don't know, it sounds good.
Yeah. Join us next week for a really exciting stream, isn't that right, Darian?
Yeah, it should be.
We hope.
Yeah.
I mean, not that this week wasn't exciting. This week was very exciting, but next week is also exciting.
Yeah.
Equally, in a different way.
Yeah.
So. Talking more legend, a guide, Faeseeker's guide to Avallen. So, putting projects together. Thank you, Zofia. Says it was awesome being back. Always have a great time being with us. And hope you have a great week. Yeah.
Same for
good to have y'all back and forth. Don't be strangers. Dale, thank you so much, Zofia. Alex, whatever Rithanos. Alex. And whoever was, didn't chat too, I that's fine too. Thanks for joining us and watching. If you came from a Dungeons & Dragons stream and you're disappointed we're not playing Dungeons & Dragons, I put on my wizard's cap and I magic missile you. There, we did it.
Watch out!
Yeah, just at the beginning of every stream, I'm just gonna roll a bunch of d4s and say I magic missile you, and then we're a valid part of the D&D stream.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I wish I could host someone, but I don't know how. I have to figure that out. I think you have to type in a command in chat, right? I'll figure that out for next week, and we can host someone next time.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
All right. See you next Thursday, team. Yeah.
I will see you later.
Yes, I will see you later too, Kurt. Bye, everyone. Take care.
I said will.